Good evening, President Barry, trustees, and Dr. Maleko. My name is Rima Yunus, principal of Laurie School, and I'm honored to introduce third grader Malaka Wada.
Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Dearborn Board of Education. Today is Monday, December 7th, 2020. This meeting is scheduled for 7 p.m. I believe it's almost 7:05. This is a virtual meeting via Zoom. Meeting number is 856-2539-8205. I will call this meeting to order. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Roll call vote of the board members. New member, Patrick D'Ambrosio.
Here.
Mary Lane is here. Roxanne McDonald.
Here.
Michael Mead.
Here, Dearborn.
Oh, that's right.
Dearborn as well.
Yes. Trustee D'Ambrosio, where
Here,
are you?
Dearborn.
And Trustee Lane is also present in Dearborn. Jim Thorpe.
Here in Dearborn.
Mary Petchlikoff.
Here in Dearborn.
Hussein Berry.
I'm here. I'm going to be the odd one today. I'm quarantined out in Milford for tonight. Next item, Madam Secretary, please.
Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Ms. Rima Yunus, principal of Laurie School, will introduce students who will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, President Berry, trustees, and Dr. Maleko. My name is Rima Yunus, principal of Laurie School, and I'm honored to introduce third grader Malaka Wada, eighth graders Miriam Habhab and Mustafa Harajli to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could all please stand and face the flag. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is a very exciting one. Next item, Madam Secretary.
The next item is the oath of office for new board member. Board member Patrick D'Ambrosio will take the oath of office at this time, administered by Dearborn Judge Gene Hunt. Judge Hunt and Patrick D'Ambrosio will stand, and with right hands raised, Judge Hunt will ask him to repeat after him the following oath of office.
Okay. Pat, do I have you on the screen?
Yep, I see you.
Okay. Raise your right hand. I do hereby swear and affirm I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
I do hereby swear and affirm I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of office of trustee of the school district of the city of Dearborn
of office of the trustee of the school district of the city of Dearborn
to the best of my ability in the manner provided by law.
to the best of my ability in the manner provided by law.
Okay. Congratulations, Trustee D'Ambrosio.
Thank you, Honorable Judge. It's always a pleasure.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Yep.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next items are the superintendent's update. Traditionally, the superintendent has asked for a moment of silence for COVID. I'm just butting in a little bit to remind him that today is also Pearl Harbor Day on 1941, when the United States was attacked by Japan. It's a good time to think about peace in the world, and then it's next week will also be the 8th anniversary of the Sandy Hook shooting. So I just want to ask the superintendent if he would also remind us of those things.
Sure. So appreciate that, Trustee Lane. And so when we do our moment of silence, we've been doing this since the start of the pandemic. And so for Pearl Harbor, we will, and the details that Trustee Lane mentioned will be included in our thoughts during the moment of silence. I wanted to mention right now, and we know we're going through the toughest time right now with the current COVID situation. Is we have a 281,000 deaths approximately in the U.S. and 10,300 in Michigan. So again, a moment of silence for all those who may be suffering or lost a loved one. Thoughts and prayers go out to them and their families. Have a moment of silence, please. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. Okay, so I guess I'll just go through my agenda then, President
Yes,
Barry?
please continue
Okay.
with your updates. Yes.
Okay. So just, I will just mention, since it was on the agenda, I know we gave him a clap, but it's been already great talking to Trustee D'Ambrosio. And so, welcome. I look forward to working with you on the board. And I know the rest of the trustees do as well. So again, congratulations on the oath and being part of the school board.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Trustee.
I'm honored to be able to serve on this board. And I would like to thank all the voters for supporting me and electing me to the Dearborn School Board to represent them. So again, I thank you, and it's an honor to be able to serve on this board.
All right, thank you. So I have my other agenda items under retirements. I want to, every month we have retirees and we congratulate them. We thank them for the years of service for the benefit of the students, whether they, are directly in front of students as a teacher, as an administrator, or someone in the school, or just providing support for the students. So we value all our employees, and we have the best employees in Dearborn schools. So all those who have been part of the district, we want to recognize our great retirees. So what we have here is Karen Andrews with 35 years of experience, Donald Claremont, over 20 years of experience, Patricia Griffin, over 25 years of experience, Linda Hipple, over 24 years, Margaret Kraft, over 20 years, Catherine Kempton, 22 years, Vincent LaCroix, over 18 years, Gay Levisky, 19 years, Ann McCory, over 9 years, Paul Pirana, over 24 years of service, Lori Pop, over 24 years as well, Susan Powers, over 24 years, Andrea Sims, over 14 years, Deborah Satarsky, over 13 years, Rita Strigalis, 25 years of service, and Khadijah Bazzi, over 23 years of service. Many of them I've interacted with personally or worked with personally, and I know we have a large district, but I want to thank and let's show appreciation and congratulate all our retirees, and they will receive a note from me. Congratulations. Thank you. So I will continue down with now my non-agenda items. Just wanted to mention with the situation with the COVID data, and thanks to the great nurses that we have and we're on top of the data, I did receive a message just before the meeting from Nurse Khan, and I shared this at the last board meeting, our dashboard. I want to thank the board for using the metrics. Unfortunately, the Wayne County positivity rate is going up, and we all anticipated this, that it's going to be a tough couple of months coming up, we believe, if not hopefully less than that. But we all have braced ourselves for this tough time right now. And so the positivity rate that is coming out now is 15.6. Last time we reported it officially from the county was 14.1. I will mention she shared a couple other statistics. We have ICU rates at 82% and 75% overall with the hospitalization. We are still in area E of the matrix. I know I went over that last month, so I'm not going to go into depth on that today, but that is the other metrics we're using for the risk category that Wayne County provides. That does put, believe almost all districts in Wayne County are in that highest risk category. I think it's no surprise to anybody. And again, I want to say that I appreciate the support of the board, our administration, working with our employees. the leadership of the board, President Barry, and how we've worked through this. We know that we've had to make some tough decisions that haven't always pleased all. But say this, and the board knows this, and I know the public does because I put out notices. We've always tried to stay ahead, balancing the health and safety of the community with the needs of our students. And so one of the more recent measures we took before the governor made her decision a few weeks ago that basically we were already in a situation where we were online. We also started limiting access into buildings as far as not only students, which is also aligned with what the governor's order, the health department's order with the governor there, because it officially falls under the health department. And so our decision to do that and for the public to just try to limit the number of traffic in the building. I mentioned that, including myself. There was a time when we opened in June, I was going to the building sometimes 3-4 days a week, 5 days a week when needed. And now I've pulled back. Today is our first fully board virtual meeting that we've had since June, to be honest. We've had a partial, but I think it's the responsible thing that the board and we've decided to do, because all we're trying to do is do our part. And I think we've helped to limit the potential that it could have been higher for the spread within the community. And so we have not had as many what we call incident reports or cases within the schools specifically. And so these are tough decisions because of course we have a plan. We wanted in-person instruction, but we've made those decisions. And so the public knows, we're trying to tell the public for the next little bit until the numbers get better as far as health and safety, limit the amount of traffic in the buildings for parents, even, set up an appointment. We put out the message. We're all leading by example. Again, today, the board and I are leading by example, by running this virtual meeting. We're all doing the same thing where we've asked to limit, I will go into the office when I need to, but we're limiting it, and we're doing it just to limit contact tracing. And that was some of the recommendations we had from our nurses and what we decided to do. So I think we were very responsible. I would also mention that the governor also, and I did not get a good chance to look at it in depth today. I did speak to President Barry about it this afternoon, but there was an extension to the order that basically, and I'll just speak to the portion that impacted the public education, was basically to maintain online for schools. For us, it didn't have a great impact because we already were, and we were kind of ahead of the game. There's other nuances when you get into special ed and ELL, but our team will be looking at that tomorrow. Cabinet, I haven't had time to look at the new renewal in depth. We will look at it and we'll make adaptations as needed and modify for the best interest of our students. But as I just mentioned, our positivity rate did go up. I think everyone anticipated it. We know we have other holidays coming up as well. And so I did just want to comment on the COVID data, but I think, tough decisions have been made and we'll continue to make them, but we're balancing that need between the health and safety of the community, along with the safety of our students, our staff. And so I think the board has made some extremely difficult decisions, but some decisions that we've stood by for the benefit of the community. Okay, so I have a couple more. I want to mention this just this afternoon. I was a pleasure, and I know some of the trustees joined. I believe Trustee McDonald, Trustee Thorpe, and I saw Trustee Lane, and I don't know if anyone else was in there. But my colleague and over on the Henry Ford College side, Russ Cavaluna, did a great job in bringing this financial literacy partnership, working with Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist. And today we launched it. We had a full statewide publication, PR session via Teams. It was very positive. And so Dearborn schools, because of that wonderful partnership we have and the great work that's happening over at the college. And again, I want to reiterate, I really appreciate the work that they're doing and the leadership of President Cavaluna and the great communication that he and I have on these issues. And again, sometimes I talk to the board president, I talk to all trustees, I talk to my administration, but I'm talking to President Cavaluna and communicating just as much. It's just the way we've learned to operate. So anyway, this is a great opportunity for our students. It's the ability, again, to get college credit working in the P-12 school with a course under also the leadership of Director Majid Fidlullah and Shannon Peterson and others. And it's another way for us to expand our dual enrollment, our collegiate academy, and all the things that we offer our students. The lieutenant governor were extremely pleased. I believe there was a lot of people in there, and because we were in another meeting at 5, the closed session, I did not get to see it, but Director Fidlullah told me we were on the news because of that. So it's a real positive. I just want to thank the college, and I want to thank the board, and we did thank the board in there, thank the Department of Treasury as well, and the state for, pretty much allowing that to happen. So I think it's just a great opportunity for this personal financial literacy class for our students.
Dr. Maleko, I'd like to ask a question about it.
Sure.
I'm guessing that perhaps the financial literacy class will take the place of one of the math classes. Although I don't know that, I would urge that. I remember when the Michigan legislature started mandating what classes, we went from only PE being required to a whole plethora of required classes in the curriculum. But in any case, it was mandated at that time that students take mathematics up to algebra 2 level. Personally, I liked mathematics and I did pretty well. So it's not that I don't believe that math isn't important, but I don't think that every student going through our school system is going to become an engineer or needs to, or they just shouldn't. So at that time, we expressed some concerns, and I recall sitting in on an IEP of one of our brilliant videographers, a young woman who was doing a really fabulous job, was admitted, I think, to UCLA Film School, and she had a really promising career ahead of her, but she could not get through algebra 2, and her parents begged, and she did finally get an exception, a waiver of some kind. I think it was because she was math phobic, but they wanted her to take personal finance, which would have been really useful to her. And instead, the state insisted that she had to have algebra 2. It's the kind of imposition of standards that sometimes doesn't really make sense to individual lives. So I'd like a little more information. I hope you'll explain that. Maybe it'll be coming out in the future, but I hope that the state government will consider that this would be a substitute maybe for algebra 2.
I can comment. It did come up in there just to answer Trustee Lane. There was a question, and Director Fidlullah and Shannon Peterson I can kind of provide that. It can be used. This is a pilot class, so we will be looking for the ability to use it as in lieu of a senior math class. Right now, students can use it as a personal, they call it personal curriculum. So it can be built into an individual student plan, but we can also look at expanding that. And again, that was commented on by Director Fidlullah at the session today. So we definitely have the ability to move in that direction. And technically right now, it can be implemented on an individual basis. But I believe based on what the state says, that's one of the things that they want to look at is, because this is a pilot, how can it be replicated not only for Dearborn schools, but we're going to be leading the way for other districts across the state as well. So I think more conversation to come on that.
Great.
Trustee McDonald?
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of comments. I was at the kickoff today, and I believe Trustee Petchlikov and I were both at the initial meeting over a year ago at the college. But what a grand opportunity this is for our students. I'm so excited about the pilot program. And when my son was just home on leave recently, he initiated a conversation with me about mortgages and escrow accounts and taxes and insurance and all of these financial things. And we had a really long conversation. And while we were having this conversation, I was thinking how important it is for all of our students to have information and have a basic knowledge of these things for success in their lives. And once again, Dearborn and Henry Ford College are leading the way. So I'm just very excited about the program, and I think it's going to be very beneficial to our students and then eventually to students around the state.
Thank you. Want to continue, Dr. Maleko?
Okay, I have one more thing. It's the holiday season, and I know we're approaching it. I know it's been a different year for everyone. I know, with the COVID situation, we all will look back on 2020 and at some point in the rearview mirror, and we will, say, we're glad we're through it. At the same token, I think we've learned a lot about each other during this tough times. We've had challenges, but it's also been a testament to how people work together, I believe, despite some of the different controversy that is also out there, and despite some of the decisions that we have had to make that may not please everyone. I feel very good about the leadership of our district, about the board, about working with the college, and the fact that we've really truly done our best for the best interest of the students. I want to thank the board for that, for allowing me to lead in the district and working with you. I appreciate all the work you do, and I truly wish you all the best for a holiday season. The same token, I want to send it out to the community and the staff. You've stood by. I can say to our executive cabinet, to cabinet, to administrators, to principals, to all our administrators, a lot of those individuals, honestly, there was really no summer, not only not in travel, but it was no time off, because we were constantly working to try to put together a program for our students, and something that none of us had ever anticipated, and none of us had ever went to school for, and none of us had ever studied for. Our teachers came up and stepped up. At Dearborn, we lead the way. We had 100 people in our reopening committee. We have had disagreements. It's all healthy. We've had people and students come before the board and publicly comment on and advocate. I have my student advisory council, so our great students in Dearborn. Again, this financial literacy class is another example, but we continue to work together for the community, for the staff. So I just want to say, I truly do wish everyone a wonderful holiday season, even though it may be different this year. And I also say, be cautious too. Let's understand that we have to sacrifice now, because we know the churn is coming at some point. And so let's do what we need now to sacrifice to make sure that we can get back we will get back, and I know we will, for in-person instruction. So I want to wish our entire staff and community, our great students, a wonderful holiday season. And thank you for standing by us. Thank you for standing by us and understanding the difficult decisions, but have some downtime as well, and enjoy the time with you and your families when we are off, and when we don't have to Zoom every day, right? Or we don't have to Google Teams and have all the online, because we are so accustomed to that right now. And I know the students can use the break, and the parents and everyone. So from the bottom of my heart, I just truly appreciate everyone. And I just wish you all, our entire staff and community, parents, a good holiday season. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Next item.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Next items are recognition and acknowledgements. The first up is musical performance by the Dearborn High School Women's Ensemble.
Hello, it is my pleasure to once again present some music of the season to our December board meeting. Tonight, you are going to be hearing from Dearborn High School's Women's Ensemble. They will be performing two pieces for you, We Need a Little Christmas and My True Love Gave to Me. Jennifer Pagowski is our director at Dearborn High. Ms. Pagowski has been in our district for 25 years, and for the past 20 years, she has had the distinct privilege of conducting the honors choir at the middle school level. Let's welcome Dearborn High School's Women Ensemble.
We try the recording.
All right. Well, this year,
Hi, my name is Olivia Kirk.
Hi, my name is Sophie Wheeler.
Today, we will be performing My True Love Gave to Me. Please enjoy. What to do with the presents? What to do with the things?
What to do with the treasures that my true love brings? What to do with the partridge? What to do with the tree? What to do with the presents my true love gave to me?
What to do with the ladies, always with their tents?
What to do with the French hens? Send them back to France. What to do with the pipers, piping out of key? What to do with the presents my true love gave to me? Take back the lords of leaping, take back the other things. The only ones I'm keeping are the 5 golden rings. What to do with the drummers, drumming constantly? What to do with the presents my true love gave to me?
What to do?
What to do? What to do with the milkmaids? I don't have a cow. What to do with the birdies calling to me now? What to do with those slings? May I set them free? What to do with the presents my true love gave to me? Take back the swans of swimming, the turtle dovey things. The only ones I'm keeping are the 5 golden rings, golden rings. What to do with the treasures? What to do with the presents my true love gave to me?
What to do with the presents
10 boards of leaving behind, ladies dancing, casements of milking. My true love gave to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize. I didn't mean to try to cut it short. What a great performance. Thank you very much. Now we'll go into next item, please.
Trustees Lane and Mead recognition.
okay, so normally we would be in a situation where we would be recognizing our trustees in person. Two things: we'd have a reception at the ASC Central Office Building prior to the board meeting, and then we would be recognizing them formally in person. Obviously, that was not possible this year with the COVID situation, as we're being responsible. But we still want to recognize the great work by our two trustees, Lane and Mead, who are leaving the board. So we did it a little differently this year, and I'm going to have some comments. But before I do, we do want to share a little video that David and his team put together from that recognition.
Important thing that we do as a board is to make sure that we have a strategic plan. But all these action points are as a result of goals that everybody has established, right? And then there is some person responsible for making sure those goals are accomplished.
I think governance works best when people are active and involved in their government. So I appreciate the people that came here. I would welcome you at any time. I feel it keeps us on our toes.
We're supposed to be responsible for developing the vision, the mission, the values, and the strategic plan. And all of the long-term and specific goals have to be developed and approved by the board. having a strategic plan is really critical for the board because then we can back away and let the administration and the staff and the faculty implement this strategic plan.
Dr. Mead, as you leave the board this year after 6 years of serving and many more years serving as administrator at the college, I want to thank you for your advocacy for students, for the advancement of academic standards at both the college and the P12, your leadership with the strategic plan. You really understood when I was superintendent your role as far as the fact that you allowed the administrators to do their work and you provided guidance, were involved with the budget and the big picture. So I just want to say thank you so much for all of your hard work, your dedication, and the positive impact you've had on so many students.
Trustee, Doctor, Vice President, Interim President Mead, it's a heartwarming opportunity for me to say congratulations to you. You have been at this college for 40 years, and you've made such an impact.
Congratulations, and thank you, Dr. Mead, for all you did for Dearborn Public School students. You pushed us with the strategic plan to make it measurable so that we could track our progress, and it was a living, breathing document, and I thank you for that.
Hello, Dr. Mead. I wanted to express my heartfelt and most sincere congratulations to you for retiring, and also extend my sincere appreciation for you for serving on our community board and helping our students with most important decisions as it relates to our schools.
Hi, Dr. Mead. Thank you so much for all of your service to Dearborn Public Schools. You were a great board member, and I hope you had fun. I learned a lot from you. I wish you and your family all of the best during your well-deserved retirement. Thank you.
Trustee Lane, do you have any comments?
No corrections. Not always. No comments.
I know, I was just anticipating, that's all.
To Mary Lane, I want to thank you for all of your hard work and dedication, going back so many years in the school district. All the work that you've done really means a lot to me, means a lot to so many, I can say thousands, tens if not hundreds of thousands of students, and then tens of thousands of staff members that you've had a positive impact in your 20-year history on the Board of Education. You will be missed. But I know you'll be around, and I know you'll be there supporting and advocating for Dearborn Public Schools, for public education, and the betterment of society for our future generations and our students.
Congratulations, Trustee Lane, on a fantastic career of service here at Henry Ford College. We are so proud to have called you our colleague and one of our leaders for decades. In those times, you've served our community. You've helped students and staff by the thousands, and you even got the opportunity to mentor a new president. And I can tell you personally, that was a good part and an important part of my tenure at the college.
Hello, Ms. Mary Lane. Thank you so much for your nearly 2 decades of service to the students and staff in Dearborn Public Schools. I am going to miss all of your attention to detail and your very specific questions regarding all issues of importance related to the welfare of students and for the benefits of staff.
Really, what you've done over the years is immeasurable. On behalf of my children, my community, and myself as an employee in Dearborn Public Schools, I've seen nothing but extreme effort to help our students and community, and for that we are forever grateful. I am sad that you are leaving the board, and I wish you the best as you move on with your life, and I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for all that you've done for us in the district.
You humbled me by your passion for students and your willingness to put that passion out there and wear your heart on your sleeve sometimes during board meetings. But I think the favorite memory I'll keep in my mind and heart is the pride on your face at every single graduation. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you did for my children who were Dearborn Public School students and all of the children at Dearborn Public Schools. Enjoy your retirement, well deserved.
Everybody, yes, no, everybody ready? We are adjourned.
Okay, that being all the business we're going to conduct tonight, last call, we are adjourned.
Okay. So we also, there's going to be a longer version of the video that will come out as well. And part of it was, as the trustees are aware, from last Wednesday, what did we do? It's the COVID situation. So we have some video on that as well that we're going to share with the trustees. And I think I've shared some of it. And I know we're putting together a long version. Myself and Joanne Harris were talking, and David and President Cavalluna, and then I talked to President Barry, and really, I appreciate President Barry's idea. We decided it was his idea, and we worked on it together. And it was a drive-by ceremony that we had this past week. And so we were able to go in a socially distant COVID manner and recognized in lieu of the reception. And so I appreciate everyone who was able to be there. And if you weren't, I know you were there in spirit. I do want to make a few other comments. Both Dr. Mead and Trustee Lane, Trustee Dr. Mead and Miss Lane. You know, I've worked with you both as board presidents. Mary, twice you had. I've learned so much from both of you in different areas, and I did mention it in some of the comments. But I think you both did a pretty good job. In 2015, you both sat on the board that's hired me. So hey, you know, I am appreciative of that. But I'll just kind of say, hey, I think you also helped me personally as well, and maybe a connection to my family. And you both have talked about how you remember in 15 when, you know, the second meeting and Dr. Wilmot said it was okay. I have my entire family there. And so you kind of know my kids when they were younger. And so Mary Lane, you know, you helped me, you helped my wife convince me for that Europe trip about a year and a half ago. And then you gave me a whole agenda for it and all the information. So you're just someone that always wants to help. And so, you know, my family, you know, we're all family, and I appreciate, you know, all the trustees. And then Dr. Mead, you know, you went with me to the, you know, the national conference when I was recognized for being the state superintendent of the year, which really belongs to the whole district and all of you. And so that was a nice memory for me, and my family was there and they happened to go. So you're two very quality people. And since I've already made some comments, a lot of us have other comments that are on that video, but I want to kind of give a couple of more things that I'd like to read. Former superintendent, and so this is for Mary. I do have some comments from Dr. Artis who he sent in, and he sent them in, and so I'm just going to read it. And then basically it said, during the month of May 2002, Mary Lane, and for those of you who didn't recall or you know Dr. Artis, he was here from 2002 to I think about 2008. So as superintendent for Dearborn Schools, he hired me as the principal over at Salina. So anyway, he recalls going to visit with you. You came to visit him in Upper Arlington Public Schools, Arlington, Ohio. You carried back to the Dearborn Public Schools of Education support when he was assistant superintendent then, and you supported his selection. He basically stated that you served as a board member for the Dearborn Public Schools. He knows for the 6 years that he served as superintendent. As a board member, he states that you were always thoughtful, inquisitive, and always dedicated to doing what was best for all the students in the district. When you did call, it was about critical issues and educational issues. He knows that your interests were broad with a deep knowledge of curriculum concerns, critical leadership expectations. He stated that you represented all the students and parents of the school district. You cared deeply about what was happening with students on all ends of the city and all areas of the city. During his tenure with you, he appreciated your sage advice and counsel and wanted to know your opinions regarding all matters. He truly wishes you all the best as you leave the Board of Education. So that was from Dr. Artis, who I did reach out to. And if I could, I'm going to just say for both you and Dr. Mead, I know you both served under previous superintendent Brian Whiston, and he served for you, and you worked with him together. I can tell you what he would say because he spoke so highly of both of you to me. And he knew that you were staunch advocates for education. And so, Superintendent Whiston, who had passed away a couple of years ago, if he was here, you would also both be getting the positive comments for the service that you provided to the students in the district. So just in closing for me, I just want to, thank both of you on behalf of the entire school district, our administration, our students, our staff. Thank you for serving the board, and we will miss you, and we've learned from you, and we appreciate your support and all that you've done for our students.
Thank you, Dr. Maleko. I'm just going to add a couple quick comments here too. Dr. Mead, thank you for your service. It was an amazing experience for me to serve with a colleague that was so knowledgeable about the curriculum, processes, and the institution we call Henry Ford College. Sir, I learned so much from you. For that, I personally thank you. Again, thank you for your service on the board and for your service to the thousands of Henry Ford College former students. Mary Lane, what could I say? It's been an honor to work with you and to learn from you. I will not forget your mentorship the first couple of years I was on the board. I believe we were on the same page most of the time during my 10 years I served as your colleague. I always admired your unwavering passion, your fairness, your attention to details, and your well thought out comments during our meetings. So thank you for your service to Dearborn for so many years. Thank you both, and we appreciate you. Anybody else? Mary Lane, go ahead. Trustee Lane.
I would like to say something. This is my last meeting in 20 years. I told Dr. Maleko I'm going to have to start watching Monday Night Football, and now that I'm ready, it's defunct. So I'm going to have to find something to do on Monday nights. But as Dr. Mike Mead and I become board members emeritus, I want you to call on us as public ambassadors. I did talk to him earlier, and I know he was struggling with his decision too. For weeks or months now, I've been saying this is my last board meeting, and I waver between elation over not having to have 40 tabs open and reading stuff to sorrow to leave something that's been a singular honor in my life. So I can't do that without saying that I have to give my thanks to the voters of Dearborn and Dearborn Heights. They elected me, and not only that, they re-elected me 5 times. So it's a real honor that they did that. I always felt that this was an immense responsibility to steward our public funds and our children. There's just nothing more honorable. So I would like to also thank a couple of people. I never imagined that I would run for public office. It was just never anything that I imagined doing. I always thought that was someone else. But Abid Hamoud and Osama Siblani told me, you need to run. You need to change what's going on with the board. I thought the board was stodgy. I told Pam Adams that. I gave a public interview. And Pam stung from that for a long time, but the board has flourished. Dearborn schools have flourished. I'm so proud of that. I'm so honored to have been just a small part of that. The college has flourished, and the evidence is in our statistics, and every day it's a miracle that thousands of people and thousands of children come to school, they learn, and they become better for it. When you think of how many things can go wrong, it's honestly, it's a daily miracle. So I'd like to thank the board members past also who taught me so many things. Pam Adams was one, Daryl Donaldson, Jim Schoolmaster. I mean, there were so many people Hussein, Mary, Roxanne, board members present. You've been so good to me. And then my real homegirls, Amy Shellis, Miriam Bazzi, Fadwa Hamoud. I have learned so much from all of them. And most of us are still friends. I mean, I'm friends with almost all of them. So I really appreciate that. I'd like to also I'd like to give a word of advice for board members' future, and just warn them that you're in for a heavy lift. Mr. D'Ambrosio, Ms. Watts, Trustee Moseb, you already know, this is an awesome job. You're making decisions over millions of dollars and the fundamental right for a student to be educated. I know that the people have chosen you with good reason. Sometimes the democracy doesn't work, but I think in this case it did. You're all going to be good board members. I just know that you've got a lot of reading to do. Dr. Mead and I were just talking today about how much work it is. You can never be educated enough. We can never get enough information, but I hope that everyone will look at the wide world around them and learn from other people. And then take advantage of conversation with your present board members who have also a wealth of information about things that we've done, what we've already tried. We have coffee together frequently with the superintendent and with the president. So those things are all really good ways that the future board members will honor the board and make good decisions for all of us. And you're entrusted with really heavy responsibilities. So please do your best. I know you will. So I just would like to also thank all of the students over the years. It's been just fantastic to meet so many of them. I live in awe of their accomplishments. And I know that the world is being left in good hands. So thank you.
Dr. Mead, yes, of course.
Yeah, thanks a lot for these accolades. Appreciate it. Mary, unbelievable 20 years of service on the board. I take my hat off to you. But I would like to also thank the voters for giving me the opportunity to serve on the board. And particularly, I'd like to thank the superintendent, Dr. Maleko, because when I was the chief, or whatever you call it, the president of the board, I was really worried about it because I don't have much experience with the P through 12. And I thought, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that job. And he said, don't worry, I got your back. I'll take care of it. So a lot of times I had to refer to him to resolve issues because I didn't understand the issues very much. And I appreciate that the board members allowed me to serve when my background is really in the community college. And you can tell that I really am very cognizant of what's going on at the college, and that's my major interest. And I always thought that out of 7 board members, we ought to have at least one that is very interested in the college. But I'd like to thank the executive directors, Dr. Chill Kokol, Miss Shannon Peterson, Miss Fatmi Faraj, Mr. Tom Wall, Miss Mason Alibazi, Mr. David Musterman. Really, I couldn't serve well as a board member without all of your assistance, and I appreciate your leadership of the people that report to you, because ultimately that's how those people are the ones that get the education done in the classrooms. So I'd like to make a recommendation to new board members. There's only one here now, Pat, but I would like to recommend that you seriously consider taking the Michigan Association of School Boards #1 class. I never remember, it's like College 101, but it's a class for board members to orient them about what is their role. And Trustee Petlicoff would know that when I started, I did not understand my role at all. I was coming from administration, and administration is very much different from a board of trustees. There's only you only have one vote on the board. It's really a majority vote that makes the difference. All the discussion that goes on, and then there's a majority vote, and you may not get what you want, but it is the wisdom of the group. So that's the first issue that they bring up in this course, but they also say that your most important job is the hiring and evaluation of the superintendent and the president of the college. And I think I can publicly say that I have such tremendous faith in Dr. Maleko and in Mr. Russell Cavalluna, Esquire. It's young leadership, it's vibrant leadership, it's comprehensive leadership. It's not authoritarian like some people we know running this country. It's authoritative. They do involve a lot of people in the discussion. They know they have to make the final decision, but they include and incorporate people. And so it's very important that the board members hire well. And I think this board hired very well for those two positions. Board members also have to approve the strategic plan. And the strategic plan is the vision, the mission, and the goals that the board agrees to. This is the map that the superintendent and his staff implement. So this, putting your best thinking into the strategic plan is really very important, because not only does that give direction to the district, but it also provides the board with the information to evaluate the superintendent and the president. Another item in that class is the board members are responsible for the financial sustainability of the district and the college, and that the budget, and when they look at the budget, does the budget support the strategic plan? And lastly, in this course, they say board members approve and develop, along with the administration, policies that support the proper functioning of the district and the implementation of the strategic plan. So my encouragement to new people is, please take that course. I wish I would have when I first started, because I wouldn't have made mistakes like I thought as a board member I would have a right to go and tell people what to do. No. As a board member, we work together as a team, and we act on majority votes. So good luck to the new people, and for all of you that I've served with, thank you so much. It was really, truly a pleasure to work with all of you. This is a good board, and it will lead the district and the college well in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mead, for the advice.
You're welcome.
Again, thank you very much, Mary Lane and Dr. Mead. We appreciate your service to Dearborn and Dearborn community. Trustee Lane, you're still here for this meeting, so next item, please.
Next item is commendations.
So I'm going to take on the commendations today. We only have a few this month. Commendations to Eternal Light, a nonprofit organization, and to the founder, Sam Bazzi, who provided food to thousands of families in the Dearborn community. Dr. Rolla Bazzi Gates, our special education coordinator, organized and coordinating 2 food distribution events in the district. The first one in October was at ASC. The second one was at the Ford Community and Performing Arts Center in November, and fed 4,500 families. Special thanks to all students, school social workers, administrators who volunteered. Commendations to Anthony Satter, the Etzel Ford English language EL science teacher, English language learner science teacher, was named to the Detroit Lions champion of the game for going above and beyond for his students. He will be recognized during the Lions versus Minnesota Vikings game on January 3rd. Congratulations to Michelle Jawad, on your appointment to the board of directors. She is a psychologist in our district of the Wayne County Integrated Health Network. Thank you for your commitment to our students and your leadership in our district and beyond. And again, I've already mentioned it, but I just think it fitting to give commendations to all of our employees in the district that have really worked hard with our board, to our students, just to everyone for sticking together and getting through this most difficult time in our lives. Thank you.
I have one, President Barry.
Trustee Lane?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Maleko. I don't even know, I mean, I don't even know what I've said. I don't know if I thanked you and the staff, but I should. I do have to mention one former staff member, not only for I loved my own parade. It's the first time I've ever had a parade. But also for the everyday, I always like to say that every day is a miracle. And that's our staff from the top, from Dr. Maleko and Mr. Cavaluna, all the way down to the custodians, the lunch ladies, anybody serving. You really deserve a lot of thanks. Anyways, today I did become aware of one staff member, a former staff member, who's being honored in, I think next spring, as a top leader in education, and that's Dr. Don Ball. So he's receiving an award. People flourish even when they leave Dearborn schools, which I'm very happy of. And Dr. Ball gave me a Coast Guard salute and said, fair winds and following seas. So with that being said, I appreciate that parting bit of wisdom. I'd just like to remind the district and the college, some of the past trustees have asked to get some emails to have us continue to be on some email lists for you so that we can continue to work as public ambassadors for public education. I would like to, I know former trustee Jerry Stockwell wanted to be aware of what was going on at the college. So I hope that any of the present and future board members will call on me whenever they need. I stand by you and the honorable service that you give.
Trustee McDonald?
I was actually just scratching my head, but I did want to say thank you. It's been quite a pleasure and an honor working with both of you. Mary, I have learned so much from you over the years. And you always challenged my my thinking. You gave me different perspectives on things, so I appreciate that. And I have to admit that I occasionally had to look up a word that you threw out there, so I appreciate you expanding my vocabulary as well. And Dr. Mead, thank you. It's been an honor serving with you as well. Both of you, I wish you all the best, and I will, without a doubt, contact you in the future when I have questions or I just want to pick your brain, because you have lovely brains to pick.
Thank you. There's nothing anything else on the commendations? We'll go on to the next item.
Acknowledgement of donations.
So we have David who's going to come in for that one.
Hello there, everybody. Thank you very much. And as Dr. Maleko mentioned, I just wanted to put into scope a little bit. There's well over an hour of video that is in that final tribute video to the board trustees. Many people who sent in video tributes were not part of just that. That was just the highlights. That was only the highlights, as Dr. Maleko mentioned. Both of you will receive the full version so that you can share with your families at a later date. But yeah, there were many, many people who sent in videos and tributes and photos and all kinds of wonderful things. And we will share that with you when we have that all edited together.
Thank you.
Many donations, so get right to it. Henry Ford Elementary School will receive a donation of $1,000 to be used for alphabet trays in young fives in kindergarten, and a donation of $120 to be used for vocabulary visual learners. The donation is being made possible by the Dearborn Education Foundation. And while we're talking about the foundation, let's just get right to all of those donations. A donation of $300 has been offered to Smith Middle School by the Dearborn Education Foundation to be used for a color printer for ASD students. A donation of $4,671 has been offered to Dearborn Public Schools by the Dearborn Education Foundation to be used for internet services. A donation of $1,125 has been offered to Michael Berry School by the Education Foundation to be used to support their virtual reality career fair. A donation of $376.98 has been offered to Dearborn Public Schools by the Education Foundation to be used for the Monster Mile. And a donation of $273.54 has been offered to the Dearborn Public Schools by the Education Foundation to be used for the battle against hunger. A donation of $22,000 has been offered to the Dearborn Public Schools by the Education Foundation, once again to be used for Eureka Math. A donation of $590 has been offered to Hague Elementary School by the Education Foundation to be used for first grade early literacy. A donation of $860 has been offered to Dearborn Public Schools by the Education Foundation to be used for robotica. And a donation of $250 has been offered to River Oaks Elementary School by the Education Foundation to be used for literacy. A donation of 1,200 K95 masks has been offered to Dearborn Public Schools by Mr. Sam Bazzi of Eternal Light Organization to be distributed to special education staff. A donation of $304 has been offered to Salina Elementary School by Jessica Philbicorn of LuLaRoe Company to be used for scholastic books for supplies for Lindsay Dexter's classroom. A donation of art supplies, easels, office furniture, monitors, a refrigerator, and a microwave have been offered to the Dearborn Public Schools by GTB Advertising Agency to be used throughout the district. And finally, a donation of expertise, knowledge, compassion, and dedication has been made to the students and staff in the Dearborn Public Schools by Trustee Mary Lane and Trustee Michael Mead. Trustee Lane has made this donation for over 20 years and Trustee Mead for 6. Thank you both for this very kind and very much appreciated, priceless donation. It has been an honor and a privilege to work with both of you. Thank you.
You should be an actor.
President Berry, if I could make a comment on the donation. Thank you. First of all, great outfit there, David. He knew he got extra attention for it too, so it was extra meaning coming from that. And I also just want to mention, we have a lot of generous people in the community that are doing a lot of good things. We had a meeting this week with the Community and Schools program, and that coordinates a lot of food and things. They work in our schools and they work within the community. There's a lot of great agencies that have worked together, and I can't even start to name them, but I've seen that throughout Dearborn, especially during this time. And I can tell you, whether that be Exchange Club, Rotary, Kiwanis, Goodfellows, they're all stepping up, and we have lots of things that are going in that maybe don't go directly to the schools, but go to our families and our community. So it's wonderful that is happening. I also want to mention on item 14, thank you to Trustee Thorpe and his wife Carrie for really helping to facilitate. There was a lot of good furniture that'll be valuable for our district, for administration, for our students. So thank you as well for facilitating that donation. And so again, thank you, to all the community for the warmth out there, and including students. They continue to do fundraising throughout the district. Thank you, President Berry.
Next item, please.
Approval of minutes of the following Dearborn Board of Education meetings. Finance Committee meeting, November 9th, 2020, Board Report 20-39. Regular P12 meeting, November 9th, 2020, Board Report 20-40.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion offered by Trustee McDonald, supported by Dr. Mead. Are there any corrections or questions pertaining to the minutes? Hearing none and seeing none, Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Ambrosio,
Yes.
Lane, yes. McDonald,
Yes.
Mead,
Yes.
Thorpe,
Yes.
Petchlokoff,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes, thank you. The motion is adopted by unanimous vote. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Special reports, P12 audit report, Dr. Glenn Maleko, Mr. Thomas Wall.
I believe Tom will be entering here.
All right, I'm in. So today we have our annual audit presentation required by state law. We are required to do an annual audit where we have an independent accounting firm come in and do the audit and give a presentation to the board for acceptance. So today we have Jeff Higgins and Tom Marchese that will be doing the audit presentation.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom, and good evening, everybody. Appreciate a couple minutes of your time tonight. We're here to talk about the audit results for the district's audit for the year ended June 30th, 2020. You'll notice this year that there's actually two reports that you've received with your finance or your packets tonight. So there's the financial report with supplemental information, which contains the district's audited financial statements, and the report to the Board of Education, which provides information on the audit process and results. Now, ultimately, there will be a third report that will be issued, which is our separate report on the our audit of the federal programs administered by the district. However, the Federal Office of Management and Budget is still in the process of finalizing the regulations on some of the new federal programs that were established under the various coronavirus relief bills. And until those regulations are finalized, we're not able to finalize our audit for those programs. So once that audit or those regulations are finally released, that third report will be issued shortly thereafter. But with that, we will get into our presentation. I believe Tom is going to be able to share his screen and show our slides. Is that correct?
It looks like it. I'm just pulling it up now.
While he's pulling that up, I will just start off by briefly stating that remember that the financial statements include the P12 school district, the Henry Ford College, and the Henry Ford College Foundation. So as the district's auditors, it's our responsibility to express an opinion on both the amounts and the disclosures in the financial statements based on our audit conducted in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America and the standards applicable to financial audits contained in government auditing standards. So I'm happy to report here tonight, as we can see, that based on the results of our various audit procedures, we rendered what's called an unmodified or a clean opinion on the district's financial statements. This would represent the highest level of assurance that we as auditors can provide on a set of financial statements. In addition, our audit identified no what are called material weaknesses or internal control items. Again, none of those were identified, and no material noncompliance noted. So again, overall, a clean audit report. The presentation tonight will focus on the P12, obviously, and the general fund of the P12, as the general fund is the primary operating fund of the district and where most of the activity takes place. So with that, we'll get into some of the highlights, and I will turn it over to Tom.
Thanks, Tom. I'm sorry. Thanks, Jeff. I was looking at Tom. So slide 2 just provides a breakout of general fund assets and liabilities at June 30th, 2020. Total assets were $76 million, while liabilities were $40 million at year end. Cash of $13 million and investments of $28 million represents 54% of total assets. Receivables at 40% of total assets. Those are composed of the July and August state aid payments. So moving over to the liabilities, accrued payroll is the largest component that is attributed to the July and August pays owed to teachers and other 10-month employees. So on slide 3, there are year-over-year breakouts of general fund revenue. Revenue stayed largely consistent between the years. State sourced revenue is driven largely by the foundation allowance based on pupil counts. Projected state revenue shortfall due to the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in a $175 per pupil cut to the foundation allowance for the 1920 school year. And state aid reduction of $3.6 million occurred for the 1920 school year based on that state aid reduction. The local source revenue is primarily property taxes. So the next slide provides a breakdown of general fund expenditures by function. Total expenditures decreased by 2.5 million or 1% year over year. The spreads between functions remained consistent year over year. Instruction represents 61% of expenditures and only includes activities dealing directly with the teaching of pupils or interaction between teachers and students. Other activities such as counseling, transportation, and maintenance are classified as support services. This slide breaks down the general fund expenditures by object. As illustrated, salaries and fringe benefits represent 88% of the district's general fund expenditures, while supplies represent about 11% of expenditures. Again, these buckets remain substantially consistent with the 2019 fiscal year. Here's the history of the general fund operating results, simply stated as revenues in excess of expenditures. The districts added to their fund balance for the past 5 years. Note 2017 is a bit of an outlier as it was favorably impacted by the first year of enhancement fund millage. The 2020 fund balance increased $2.6 million, which added 8% to the general fund balance from the prior year. This final chart provides a look at the general fund balance levels for the past 5 years as a percent of expenditures. As mentioned in the prior slide, the fund balance has increased each of the past 5 years. The fund balance, simply stated, is effectively the assets less liabilities. And it's intended to serve as a measure of financial resources available in the general fund. A healthy fund balance helps pay bills so the instructional program can be carried out without disruption from circumstances beyond the district's control, such as this year's pandemic. It's comparable to a district savings account or reserve. Fund balance is used to measure financial health of districts and sometimes shown as a percent of expenditures, like in this chart. Note the district's general fund balance of $36.2 million as a percent of general fund expenditures of $215 million is 16.81% at June 30, 2020, compared to the statewide average of about 14% and the 15% guidelines established by the Michigan school business officials. With that, I'll conclude the presentation and open it up for questions from the board.
Presentation, are there any questions? Okay. I guess you did a good enough job. There's no questions. Thank you very much, Tom and Jeff. And thank you very much for Mr. Thomas Wall and his team. I know what goes on in the vaccine and something like this, so very much appreciated. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Brewery.
I would certainly echo those sentiments. Is Tom saying something?
Jeff, did you want to say something?
I think I think Tom's on mute.
Sorry about that. Okay. I want to thank Tom and Jeff just because this was a very unusual year. The audit took place in June and in August/September, and it had to be all done remotely, which means that our staff had to learn how to communicate all the documents and scan things up and download through protected server. So there's a lot of new things we had to learn this year to get the audit done. And I just want to thank them for their patience as we got through it, because some people were working from home some of the summer. So it was a really unique circumstance that I haven't dealt with in the 35 years I've been doing this sort of thing, that it was new and used, and it went kind of smooth. So I wanted to thank both of them.
Yep, and I would conversely also like to appreciate the help of Tom and the entire business office. Like you said, it was a unique year this year. I've been doing this for 30 plus years myself, and let's hope we never have another year like this. But all things considered, again, a very clean audit report, and so again, we do appreciate all the assistance and cooperation of Tom and his team. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And just one more thing, I just want to thank the two board members, Mary and Dr. Mead, that are leaving. You've been a good reflection on how good this board is in Dearborn and how you care about everybody so truly and still keep the thumb on the finances and make this district healthy and grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Trustee Lane, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I would like to. I don't know if this is a question. It's like asking Tom and Jeff to predict, the two Toms and Jeff to predict the future. The fund balance looks healthy, but I just want to throw out a caution. It's taken us, I mean, if we look back just 5 years, we see that we were way under what was recommended. And I want to remind everyone that as a board, we made it a goal to have a solid fund balance in case of emergencies. I can remember over the years when we'd get a text message, Woodworth's gym has flooded. We don't have this, we have that, one or another emergency. So we know also as a board that we don't get paid over the summer, and yet we have to continue to pay our employees. So for those reasons, we did follow the advice of the Michigan School Officers, Business School Officers Association, and our fund balance looks enviable. But of course, in our closed meeting, I cautioned, and I know it doesn't fall on deaf ears, that we need to maintain a good fund balance, particularly for next year. We have no idea what the state or the federal revenues will be, but if they have any advice on that, or if they know of any upcoming changes in the next year financially. That's a question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is an excellent comment, and I would say that the fund balance this year, that is a good point. Keep in mind that if you look where things appeared to be headed back in the May-June timeframe, districts were expecting upwards of a $650 to $700, per pupil cut effectively. And so districts had to immediately react to that. And so there were some reactions made on the expenditure side. Unfortunately, the cut ended up needing to be significantly less. And as we, got into the fall timeframe, the state they thought they could keep the fund balance stable for this year. But again, the state did have to use a lot of its rainy day fund, if you will, to make that happen. So there still is a lot of uncertainty. We're not out of the woods yet is clearly the message. And depending on how the economy, returns and how tax collections go, the sales tax, for example, is a big part of the funding for schools. And they're still going to be important to just continue to watch the state revenue estimating conferences as they take place to get an idea of how the funding for this year is looking and going forward. That is an excellent comment that, they managed to kind of dampen the impact last year, but we're, like I said, certainly not out of the woods at this point.
The other thing I would add is we're very appreciative. If you remember, there was a vote on November of 20 regarding the enhancement millage. That roughly makes 3% of our fund balance, as Tom alluded to in the presentation, that in 2017, we banked the first year for our cash flow purposes and then spent the money the next year as the next year levy came in. So our fund balance is 3% higher if we didn't have that that enhancement millage. So we'd be around 13%, which is still good, but not as well as we are. So we made some good decisions early on to make sure that we're doing well financially. And also to the board and the administration that are making the tough decisions during budget time to watch that and monitor that and react to it quickly if we need to make some kind of change. So I appreciate everybody's help and attention to that issue.
Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Next item is monitoring student learning. Dr. Glenn Maleko, Ms. Fatmi Faraj, and Dr. Dan Patterson.
Ms. Faraj and Dr. Patterson will be
React
entering now.
quickly if we.
Okay, I see them. I'll turn it over to Ms. Faraj and Dr. Patterson.
Evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, so today's presentation, I want to minimize the presenters and start presenting. So today's presentation is monitoring student learning and strategic plan update. If we remember, we had our wonderful board approved our strategic plan last year around this time, and thank you for that. And we started implementation in winter of 2020. You've heard Dr. Mead earlier in the meeting on in so many comments, really summarizing what our strategic plan is and what strategic planning means. So I recommend that Dr. Mead becomes a consultant after he retires from this position. He does a wonderful job with that. So with our strategic plan, really, it's a roadmap like we've heard tonight. It's a roadmap that would define what our vision, mission, and goals are, and it really defines how we use funding to spend on activities and strategies that support this plan. I personally want to thank this board for really taking that as one of the utmost important actions that would drive our practices in our school. And I want to thank Dr. Maleko for really focusing our efforts in whatever it is that we're doing on our strategic plan. And I am humbled and I feel privileged that I oversee this process in the district. So the roadmap for creating the current strategic plan, after we have, the timeline has ended with a former one. It was from 2016 to 2018 when the first strategic plan was implemented. And from 2018 to 2019, we started developing the second strategic plan, and we did what is called the SWOT analysis, which is looking at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We had community input, we hired consultants, we had a committee of 70 stakeholders from different groups in the community, parents, students, teachers, administrators, community influencers from the political arena, from different places, board members. So we had different representation on the strategic plan. The board approved it around this time last year. I believe it was in November, and then implementation started in 2020. The timeline is really, and based on the Michigan Leadership Institute and the consultants that supported us in this process, a good strategic plan would be running about 3 years, and then we would renew our goals and strategies. One of the things that remained the same with our current strategic plan from the formal one is the vision. In the community survey that we sent out, we asked our stakeholders if they would like to keep our vision. Because it was branded, we use it often. Students are familiar with it, staff are familiar with it, and which is student first, what you see on the background of all our documents and everything that we do. With our current strategic plan, what we did is we tried as much as we can, and you hear us, you see it in our documents, you hear Dr. Maleko emphasizing that we tie our daily practices, whether it's in the classroom, at the building level, at the district level, to our focus areas, goals, and strategies. We came up with and really narrowed it down. In a strategic plan, It should be comprehensive, yet not too spelled out where it includes all the activities that we do on a daily basis. So what we did is we narrowed it down to 4 focus areas, and that again came from the stakeholders committee. These are big major areas that we selected. Under each of the focus area, we had 3 measurable goals. And for each of the goals, we had 2 to 4 strategies. So one of the things you will notice when you go to each one of them, you're going to find a spelled out measurable goal, and then the strategies that our buildings and teachers are using in their classrooms on a day-to-day basis. How do we progress toward the goals and how do we measure that? I wanted to remind our community and our trustees today of what we've created for this process. We did create a one-pager as part of the process. I'm going to click on it and show you. This is very helpful where it sums up what our district is about in numbers. And then on the bottom half of this page, you will see that we have the focus areas, each of the goals spelled out, and then the strategies. The top portion is really a summary of what our district is about, how many students, percentages of the subgroups, highlights and awards that we've received, and other areas that are included in the plan as well. Now, if we need to look at our strategic plan, it is on our webpage. Mr. Troy Patterson helped us create the webpage, and we have it. If you click on the link and you would go, you will see the stakeholders who participated in creating the plan on this page. And you will also see, this is the committee right here. If we expand with a plus sign, it will give you all the names. And also for each of the focus areas, like for example, teaching and learning, we have 3 different goals. By expanding each goal, it gives you the strategies. And then how do we measure and monitor that? We have a SMART goal and milestones focus area for each of them. So if you click on it, you will see how we keep track of our data to make sure that we are following what we said we will follow, and we assess whether we are on the right track or not. We do have qualitative and quantitative data in each of those measurable sheets or metrics. On top, we have the numbers. We said we were going to use state assessments to measure the first goal, so here are the numbers, and we keep track of them. And here are the actions under the specific strategies that we said we were going to implement for each of the goals. So if you scroll down, you will see that we meet frequently and we assess whether we are implementing the actions and strategies we have spelled out in our plan. So that's just one example of how we monitor one of the goals. If you go to each of the goals, you will see the same thing. I just wanted to remind everyone where they can find, and it's transparent for the community. For some of the data, because of the COVID, when state assessments were not administered, you will not find numbers, but you will find the milestones for that goal. Going back to the strategic plan page, and as we said, we wanted to be very transparent with the community and with all the stakeholders. All the surveys that we administer, moving forward, will also be on that page. For example, last year, we administered a staff survey for climate culture. The results of that survey are linked here on this page. If you click on it, you will see the survey results are analyzed. We have determined what the survey data told us about our strengths as a district and our opportunities for improvements. So just wanted to point out this information as we present the update. any questions about that before we move on to how we monitor the progress of learning while we are in the pandemic?
I can just mention Ms. Farage, and thank you for she's done a great job with everyone leading. And this next portion is part of some of the board requests that have come up at the meeting too. So it kind of encompasses some of that data that we've had requests to look at the data from previous board meetings. And I've spoken to President Barry about this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Patterson is going to present the student progress in terms of student learning. Next.
Thank you, Mrs. Farage. So I'm going to share some data that we have on how our students have been progressing since the shutdown last spring. And although we know that there has been numerous challenges throughout this pandemic that we've been experiencing, I just wanted to take a minute and highlight a few of the highlights that have been brought forth by some of our administrators. So we asked our administrators a few weeks ago to list some positive outcomes that they've seen with our shift to remote learning and some of the new tools that we've been doing. And they've listed them for both staff, students, and parents. So just to highlight a few, there's many more that we collected as well that we can share with you. Across the board, everyone is learning much, much more about technology. Staff, students, and parents have been given access to many new tools. For the staff, it's been beneficial to actually have different opportunities for PD. Before, trying to get everyone in a single room with the presenter or co-presenters has always been challenging. Now that we've been becoming a little more proficient with being able to do Zoom meetings, also being able to record them and post them for people to see them later, that's been very beneficial. The students have been learning new software. They've been advocating for themselves to make sure that they come in to get extra help when they need it and communicating with their teachers. And parents have also become much more of a partner in their child's education since they're much more intimately involved with it on a daily basis. And we've also opened up a lot of new avenues for two-way communication with parents as well. So although we know there's been a lot of challenges, these are a few things that people have highlighted as some of the positive outcomes of some of the changes that we've been doing. Okay, if we could look at the next slide. So, I'm going to share with you to show how our students have been progressing, but I'd first just like to highlight that we very much believe in a multiple measures approach in our district. I know that we have given several presentations over the years on our school improvement process, where we take a look at demographic, achievement, process, and perception data. We definitely believe that a single measure shouldn't be the only thing that we're taking a look at. And that's the same thing that we're doing right now with our COVID situation. We're looking at many different metrics to make sure we're making informed decisions. So some of the achievement data that our schools have been collecting at the school level, teachers are progress monitoring, which means that they're collecting information on a daily, weekly basis on their students to see how they're progressing. We give a reading assessment called the DRA. Schools are giving common assessments, and we're also going to look at some grade data tonight. At the district level, we give the NWE assessment from K through 8. And then at the state level, we give all of the state standardized assessments. Most of these we do not have, I should say all of these we do not have data for from last spring, but we do have some SAT data from the fall. So the first thing that I'll be sharing with you is our high school SAT data. So what I'm showing you here is the data from our students that took these high school assessments or 2 months ago in October. The first thing I'd like to point out in the box in the upper right is how many students came in to take these exams. All state testing was canceled last spring. So the state of Michigan provided these assessments free of charge for students. And these were all given on a voluntary basis. So students did not have to come in if they didn't feel like it was a good opportunity for them. But we had a good turnout, I would say, for all of the grades. And you can see that we had almost 750 of our seniors come in to take those exams. So on the bottom, the left four groups of bars are for our reading data, English language arts. It's abbreviated evidence-based reading and writing for the PSAT. And what I have up here is data from our district and the state. And for the students that came and took the exams, we feel like they did very well. These averages are a little bit higher than we typically see with spring testing, and compared to the state averages, you know, we're pleased with what we saw, and we were happy that the students were able to come in and take those exams because they felt that they were beneficial to them. The one thing I do want to point out, though, is that we do just want to be careful. This is not a representative group of our students, so we don't really want to look at this longitudinally with how we've done in the past. But one thing I do want to definitely say is I do want to definitely give some recognition to our high school testing coordinators, Jeff Del Judish, Marwan Salami, and Craig Kiefer. They worked tirelessly to make sure that we were able to get all of these students in a safe, socially distanced way, to make sure that they felt safe, our teachers felt safe, and our entire high school staff showed up on these days to make sure that these students could take these exams. So everybody coordinated this very well, and we're very happy with how the results went. Okay, and next I'm going to share our NWEA data. So NWEA is an assessment that we have been giving for about 5 or 6 years now, and we give it 3 times a year in grades K through 8. And this is really the one piece of data that we have that kind of shows longitudinally pre-COVID and post-COVID the impact on our students. So the key takeaway before I break this graph down to you is that we did see some learning loss in our students, which we anticipated. When students are out of school for several months and then we're coming back with some new tools and a new platform, it's something that we anticipated. It's something that we've seen across the nation. But this is the one piece of longitudinal data that I think kind of captures a little bit of that. So the way that NWEA works is when a student takes a test based on their score, the system will tell them what would be average growth that similar students with that same score would make for the next administration of the test. And they always pick the average growth that a student will make. And just based on the way that averages work, about half of the students make that growth and half of them don't, which is why I have this 50% dotted line across it, because typically we expect half to be above their growth and about half to be below. In previous years, our students have been, above average in their growth. And we're looking at growth here from fall of one year to fall of the next year. So a full year, including summer. For each of these grade groups from 1 through 8, you can notice that the darkest bar on the right is for the most part lower. And that is the fall growth from last fall of 2019 to this fall of 2020. And we did actually have over 96% of our K through 8 students take this NWEA data. One thing though that I would like to mention is we did anticipate to see slightly less growth because of the students' shortened school year last year. But we also gave the assessment this fall in a much different manner. The majority of our students took this test at home. And so it's gonna look differently than had they been in school taking the test. So we always wanna interpret the data with a grain of salt, but this is some longitudinal data we have. It's really the only data we have last year and this year that kind of captures some of the growth of our students. So we did notice a little bit of decline in reading and math from fall to fall. So this is the reading data. And then if you take a look at the next slide for the math data, it looks a little bit similar, where this year's growth is slightly below the past. And one note that I do just want to make, I do have a note up there saying that we had a changing in testing policy that makes the third grade data look a little different. What that means is that in second grade, that is a very important year for students. It's the time in their educational careers where most of them go from learning how to read to reading to learn. And so at second grade, NWA actually has two assessments that we can give. One is read to the student, and the other one, the student reads on their own. And last year we made a transition to where in second grade, all students took the test that they read to themselves. And because of that, it makes it a similar test in third grade. So having seen the test 2 years in a row, that growth looks a little bit better just because of that consistency in testing. The prior year, they took a test that was read to them, and then in third grade took one that they had to read on their own. And because of that change in dynamic, we often see a little bit of drop just because of the mode of testing. But I just want to explain why the third grade data looks a little different. Okay, and then the last bit of data we have to take a look at is some grade data from our first marking period. And so what this is showing is over the last 3 years, in the first 9 weeks of school, how many grades were given, A, Bs, C, Ds, or Es. And as we can see in 2019, 2020, we had about 4% of our students receiving E, and it was pretty consistent, actually, pretty much the same for both of those years. 2020, roughly the same number of A's and B's, about the same for C's, but we did notice a slight increase in the number of E's that were given. And we knew that we were going to see some students struggling with the change in the mode of instruction, doing some more work independently. So this is something that we did anticipate. And not to downplay the number of, the increase in E's, but we do see that the vast majority of our students are still, doing well despite all of the changes that have occurred in, their educational setting. And this data is actually more like a formative assessment data because quarter grades do not go on a student's transcripts. And all of our schools and principals have been looking at this data ever since the marking period has come. And the schools have been adapting, and all of them have updated all of their intervention plans. I know at the district level, we've added another layer of student support to make sure that all of the students that have been struggling a little bit to be successful are going to get the support they need. And I know that all of our principals feel like by the time the semester comes around in the beginning of January, we'll see those numbers decrease quite a bit. And I should just say that these numbers are based on how many grades we are given. So we have about 1,500 students at each grade level. Each of them are in 6 classes. So this is based on the number of students times those 6 grades that they receive. And then if we can take a look at the next slide, this is the same data, but for high school. And here we can see similar trends that we saw in middle school. The number of A's and B's roughly stayed the same. We did have an increase in the number of E's, but again, this is something that the district's been incredibly responsive to, and all of our schools have response plans in place to make sure that all the students that need the help and intervention that they need will get it. So to kind of summarize what we've taken a look at so far, is we anticipated that there would be some learning loss and that we'd have some students struggling with remote learning. But at the same time, we're seeing many, many successes along the way. And most of our students are doing well despite the challenging circumstances that we're seeing. And all of our schools have been improving upon their support plans and revising those to meet all of the students' needs. And everyone has been establishing better and more consistent routines by going through all of these changes together and learning from them.
Just wanted to add to what Dr. Patterson said about NWEA is that nationwide, an increase in score has been noted, and the average with NWEA has been brought down because of that. Again, the state MDE did require the benchmark assessment with NWEA this year, but they have warned against comparing schools to school, school to school, and also district to district. What we are required to do this year is to post aggregate data, meaning the entire district average, and report that to MDE so that they can measure learning loss and create an action plan statewide based on this decrease in improvement, because this is noted nationwide. I wanted to add this piece of data so that we are aware of. Also, as we scramble to build our knowledge as teachers, I really wanted to applaud our teachers for being very creative and taking on the knowledge and the different strategies to engage our students, and we do see the improvement through qualitative data and through surveys uh, reported by our teaching staff and also hearing from our parents and students. They are developing consistency as we move along. And we are seeing progress even in the pandemic learning. So I really think that.
Dr. Patterson, if I can comment too on the data that you showed with the grade distribution, I know that we talked, although we knew it was going to be a couple of things, it was going to be a little more challenging as far as the grades go. Bottom line is that we know we have to reach out to some different students in different ways, but the majority of students are being successful given all the changes, and that was such a high percentage. If you take, I don't know if we could go back to your slide on the numbers where you talked about 6,000 students in the grades that are given. It's still a high percentage. There's a little there's a few extra students that are struggling because of the format, which we've anticipated. We've also, as a district, and I want to comment on this, that we're working on something to make sure that no student, that we reach out to all students in different ways. And I got to tell you, the buildings are doing a great job. With the pandemic, we're in a tough situation because of the fact that we can't do the normal things that we would like to do with students in the schools or with parents coming into the schools, working with the teachers. But there's other ways to do it. And I've seen some great things of the teachers involved. However, it also goes to the whole school district, and we're working on a plan. The principals and the teachers, they reach out to students if students aren't showing up to classes, because the issue we have right here is that the environment students are in, we don't necessarily control the schedules and things. We try to really we have to work with parents and support. But we know when we're with some students, and some students are dealing with different challenges in the home even, or just, for some students that might be just getting that, into that routine. So we're working on something, and this is where Dearborn Schools comes together. And I just want to mention, so for those students that, and again, I'm going to say it's a smaller percentage, because if you look at the high percentage, they're doing well given the circumstances. We have a program that we're implementing. We're meeting with administration, Mr. Saley, Dr. Violet Sweden, myself, and we have, for example, the transportation department, we have noon hour supervisors, and we have others. And again, the schools are already reaching out to students when maybe a student checked out in this virtual environment and we haven't heard from them. Well, we're reaching out, we have communications. We're also coming up with a new process that we're going to all work together. Right now, we don't have a lot of transportation. But what we can do is, and we're getting volunteers, and we're working with Mr. Larini of the union. We appreciate it in HR. And so we're going to use those resources from the staff, even in the non-instructional, and some of them are getting trained, and they're going to be doing a couple of things. One is going to be making phone calls as an extra layer to check in and to get them redirected back to school. The second is, if needed, they will actually be driving into the neighborhoods in a safe manner. I want to mention the COVID, and no one's going to be entering houses, but we will, help to provide support and just reaching out to students. So we're going to have transportation involved, noon hours. We're going to put everyone together. One of the things the state has said, and I worked with Mr. Wall, we're trying to limit as many layoffs as we can. And legally, we have to have people, put the people to work. If you can't work from home, even though the governor's working, is moving in the direction of work from home as much as possible. So this is another thing we're putting together. we're working together where we're going to actually have extra reach out that's going to support what the buildings are doing, because the teachers are working so hard. We know the principals are and everyone is. And so this is going to be an extra layer of support, just to reach out. In my career as both a principal, and you might remember the board, the home visit program that we've implemented, we can't do that as in depth. But one thing that we can do is really show how Dearborn Schools cares. And if it comes down to it, you may even see buses driving through the neighborhood again, which would be nice, wouldn't it? Since we've kind of had to go online learning. So I just wanted to mention that we're going to, so that percentage where you see between, maybe the 8% to now that 6%, or that number of students that we haven't heard from as much, or may not be checking into class, we're going to be doing extra things to reach out to them, and we'll continue to do that. I also want to take the opportunity to comment on the learning loss. The board, we've talked about learning loss, and when I speak of that, we've looked at data I've presented before you with the summer learning loss. And so this brings up that other conversation, and obviously in a COVID. So when we look at that, those are the kind of things with our NWA. It also kind of is a testament, I think, to the great instruction our teachers do, because the truth is, and we all know, the learning was interrupted in March. And so in the spring, we knew that we were going to be behind as students came back, because it just wasn't the same. And no school district was prepared for the same kind of instruction. Now in the fall, we have a different plan. It's much closer to what we would have normally operated, given the fact that we're online. It's a much closer process. However, and I've talked to trustees about this. I know Trustee Petlichkoff, Trustee McDonald. We are also in our cabinet looking at a discussion as to when we are out of this pandemic and when we can come back to some normalcy, what other things can we do to get our students caught up? So it's not just Dearborn Schools. I think we are going to be ahead, and we're going to meet the needs of our students, and we do. And I think that's what the data shows. But we're also being transparent that we know this is national and state, that because of the pandemic, and what happened, especially when it was almost stopped and halted in March, that there will be some learning loss. And we've seen that through summer and other data that we've seen, when the students leave in a normal year in June and come back in September, there potentially is some learning loss. So we've seen that. So I think these are all data sets. I appreciate the great work Ms. Farage has done and Dr. Patterson, but I just want to frame that as well, that, there's a lot of good and a lot of things that are working, and I see it, and I think the data shows that, but we have to be realistic with what we're in. So to expect that we're going to have every student at the same level if they were in person is not necessarily where we're at, but we're going to reach out and do those extra things that I just said to make sure that we can find those students, talk to the students, get them on track with teachers. We call that, doing whatever it takes to go above and beyond. And Ms. Farage, can you just comment on, I know I've had this comment just on the pacing. So right now, as far as the curriculum pacing and things compared to a normal school year, I mean, it was different in the spring, but right now, we have had to modify because of online, but we're basically still moving forward with our curriculum as mandated by the state. Do you have any comments on that?
And what Dr. Maleko just described about the plan, the action plan that we put together was shared in board briefs last week. So if you look, you will find individual building action plan based on the description that you just heard from Dr. Maleko. In terms of pacing of the curriculum, we know that the curriculum is cumbersome and it takes 6 hours a day, 180 days a year to teach the curriculum that we're supposed to teach. So what we did, as well as other districts and also nationwide, best practice says to reduce the number of standards to the essential standards that we're teaching in the classrooms. Instead of following the pacing page by page based on what we've done in previous years, we made sure that we picked the most essential standards, and these are the ones that are almost guaranteed that every child should learn in order to progress to the next grade level and be able to function at the next grade level. These are the essentials that we are focusing on. Having said that, we have to also look at our assessment and make sure that our assessments reflect those essentials when we assess the students. We're not going to take all the standards required by the state and create assessments, because there's no way we can cover them in the amount of time that we are teaching. So there are times when we have to tweak assessments, for example, common assessment in the district. We have to, instead of giving end of the unit assessment, that is very cumbersome and the time will not allow for that. We take the most essentials and make sure that are reflected on the assessment. We did part of the action plans that we've gone through is at the secondary level is to look at our schedule. And when we looked at the A's, the distribution of A, B, C, D grades, we found that students at the average and below average level are the ones who dropped in grades. And again, looking at creating the action plan that Dr. Maliko described and also tweaking our schedule to make sure that the students are having more interaction with the teachers, where the teachers can scaffold their learning through face-to-face. I know it's Zoom, it's synchronous, but still when they are attending every class and they're having interaction with the teachers, where the teacher can support them, that's been reported by the administrators across the district that it's been very helpful to the students. We made this change in middle school. It's already in place in elementary, and we are looking at that at the high school level. So these are what you see on the screen are comments from middle school administrators looking at the advantages of switching to the 6 Zoom sessions. They're not 6-hour Zoom sessions, they are 6 40-minute Zoom sessions. And students are given breaks in between and making sure that they are in breakout rooms, interacting with teachers and peers. And there are often co-teachers teaching in the same rooms when it allows for that. We don't have a co-teacher with every teacher, but we do have support staff in different buildings supporting, so they would push in and support the teacher and the students. So again, tweaking the assessments to match the essential standards, tweaking the curriculum, creating action plans that are very detailed, looking at which students are not progressing the way they should be, and providing small group instruction for those students, whether it's within the Zoom session, the regular hour, or during learning labs. When learning labs are not in person, we are doing virtual learning labs. Teachers still meet with students virtually. So we're doing whatever it takes, and you've heard that bus drivers will be involved, special ed staff, bilingual staff. It takes a whole community, and we are doing it. I think the parents are doing a wonderful job as well. There is far more parent involvement than what we've seen in the past. We've seen a lot of challenges, yeah. From that came a lot of opportunities, whether it's about our own learning, the student learning, or the parents learning. I think we're going through this. We're learning a lot as we go along.
If I can add too, Fatmi, to your comment on the parents, we appreciate the parents and what they're doing because they really are stepping up in a lot of ways, working with the teachers, and we thank them. So, you know, if we're looking at, for example, 6,000 grades at high school, we're looking at over 3,840 grades that are A's or B's. And at the middle school, out of 4,500, 3,150 that are A's or B's. So if you look at that number, the parents are helping out with that to make sure. And then we appreciate the students that are maintaining that and taking, you know, the importance of online learning and understanding that it is different, but it is still very important to their schooling and really to their future moving forward. So thank you. Thank you again to the parents.
Dr. Maliko, thank you very much for that report. Mrs. Footage and Dr. Pedersen, we appreciate all the work that went into this report. It's I can tell, it's a lot of work. I know there was Trustee McDonald and there was others that were very concerned at the last meeting about the failure rates. I think by looking at this grade distribution graph, for me, it kind of opened up my eyes that, yeah, there's some loss, but it's manageable. And I think that our teachers and our administrators and with your leadership, Dr. Maliko, I feel confident that, yeah, we're going to get caught up, no doubt in my mind. There's one thing I want to throw into here. We keep, you know, I think we're being too hard on ourselves about, you know, we can't just blame the learning loss just on, you know, being, you know, virtual. Because I was looking at a couple articles this morning, even the in-person districts are showing loss because of the COVID trauma. Families are being affected, daily now more than ever. But there's also going to be nobody's paying attention to that right now. But there's also going to be reports that yes, of course, there was learning loss for districts that had the in-person teaching. So, to my colleagues, are there any questions about this report?
I would just like to comment.
Please, Trustee Lane.
I feel like that humanity just took a great test with COVID, with the whole reaction to the pandemic, and we're still getting the results of our test back. We'll be getting those results back in the next 6 months or year, and we'll see whether we live up to our test. We have a big test coming up in the next holidays, and everybody needs to try to be as careful as possible to not spread the infection any further. But I agree with you, President Barry. We can't thank our teachers enough. We can't thank our parents enough. Everybody, our staff lived up to and stepped up to the challenges. If we didn't think that there was going to be learning loss, we weren't thinking. We see it every place in the news, and it's not just Dearborn, it's not just Michigan. We have suffered, all of us as people, a great trauma. Our life was just like blown up, and now we have to adapt to that. So of course there's going to be learning loss, but there's new things that we've learned. Parents have learned a lot more about their kids. We've all learned a lot more technology, but there are some people being lost along the way, and we will need in the 2021-2022 school year, we're going to need to have to bring those people back in. So I hope that parents and teachers will not be stressing themselves too much, even students, about what they haven't learned. They have to focus on what we have learned, and we've gotten through this so far. Let's just hope we can buckle down and get through it for the rest of the year, because there is hope on the horizon. One thing on the slides, the first slide mentioned that it was the first strategic plan. It's not the first strategic plan that Dearborn ever had. I think it might be the first one that under Dr. Maleko, but Dr. Artis also had a strategic plan. So a minor point, but don't want to let it go by. Thank you, Dr. Patterson, Ms. Farage, and Dr. Maleko.
Thank you, Trustee Lane, for bringing that up. I know Trustee Petrikov has brought it up a couple of times. I brought up this subject early on when we started tackling this challenge. Well, and I know that Dr. Maleko and his team is working on it, but we will be ready. We have to be ready when we get back into the classrooms, post-COVID, with some high-intensity tutoring. We need to be prepared with some after-school programs, summer school. And I know those discussions are happening, but obviously just a matter of time before we start talking about the remediation. And I know Trustee Petrikov wants to make a comment, but Dr. Maleko, I know that some of the districts where, how do I put this, well, just go ahead and say it, I guess, where families are more affluent, have resources, they are currently right now, having some extra tutoring, even if it's online, virtual, for their students, and that's paying up big dividends. Do we have like some kind of grant money or money set aside where we can start doing some of that? If we're not doing it already, I don't know. So if you can share your thoughts on that.
I mean, we can always use our Title I, and the state is always looking at different funding. There's some smaller grants that are available, not necessarily just for tutoring, but also for interventions. And I know Ms. Rose Aldubailey and Mr. Asali have been in some conversations with some community groups about that, maybe providing some of that additional support. As far as summer school, yes, we need to look at that. I also would say that some of our staff allocations of interventionists, coaches, and things that get the students, even in a virtual environment, down to small numbers of students are also critical. So we've allocated a lot into teaching staff that have that expertise. And that may be during the day, but it's extra doses of intervention for the students. And I've actually gone into some of those classes virtually right now. Once we get back in person, we can ramp up, the intervention coach model, our early childhood specialist model, all those things to provide that extra support. And then we will continue, and I've talked to our team about, looking at options, moving forward that you just suggested. And of course, we're going to always look for grant funding. I don't remember all the grants, but I know the state has offered some grants. Dr. Patterson has been involved in going for some of that. Mr. Asali, Ms. Faraj, they've been involved. I have not heard of high levels of grants for learning loss and other things yet that have come from the state or the feds, but we can reallocate our current monies for Title I and other things to provide those interventions for students.
Yeah,
Trustee Petrikov?
for the time, I just wanted to add to what Dr. Maleko said, because we didn't want the students to stay virtual longer than the school day. Currently, we're not doing after-school tutoring, but for summer schools, we already have plans in place. And interventions are taking place during the school day, as Dr. Maleko mentioned.
Okay, I have several questions / comments kind of thing. One, I would just be curious if Dr. Patterson has heard, because I know that this is a nationwide issue, probably it's a worldwide issue of learning loss right now with the disruption of the traditional educational school day for the kids. We chose from the get-go to not flip-flop back and forth with in-person for a couple weeks and then having to go online kind of thing. And I noticed that in some of the commentary that was shown to us that people were getting into the routine and were starting to figure out how to do this. And I suspect that it may have affected the ability, and it was always my supposition that if we stuck with a mode of education rather than going back and forth, it would be less confusing and they would get into the routine, even if it was so different from what they were used to and so unfamiliar. So I would be curious to see, though, if we would ever get any data, I don't know if it'll ever be shown, of those districts that kind of mishmashed it up, whether it helped us or hurt us in case we're ever confronted with something, God forbid, like this again. Number two, so that's just a statement. I don't expect you to have an answer to that. Number two, hopefully by springtime, we will be back in the classroom. And I was curious about how are we going to transition then from where we're not pacing and we're just taking out those things that we think are critical right now. Once we get back to the routine of 5 days a week, a full school day back in the classroom, how are we going to get back to the normal again with and because I'm assuming we can't just pick up where we left off in the virtual world. My guess would be we're going to try to cobble something together that would be more to the pacing of the traditional students' curriculum at that point in time. But I'm not certain. Are we prepared for that if that were to come sooner rather than later?
Yes, we are prepared for that. What I mentioned is called the essential standards, and the essential standards are almost the guaranteed essentials, meaning that we need to guarantee that every student learns these and
right.
move to the rest of the standards. Our teachers are meeting in what we call professional learning communities, and what they do is they pace the curriculum and the standards when they meet. and they make sure that they cover those standards during their daily instruction. So that's really the work that they do on a regular basis, whether they're in the building or whether we are on the district level meeting with principals. That's the bulk of our work. That's what we continue to do all the time. So yeah, they will transition to pacing the curriculum and making sure they are, what they did at the end of, actually at the beginning of this year, what they did is they went back to last year's grade levels, and what they did is they highlighted what they missed because of the pandemic, so that they can pick up on those early this fall. So our teachers are well aware. They do a wonderful job with the pacing and making sure that the standards are covered with the students. And again, they would narrow and expand based on the time given and based on what the pandemic is allowing us to do. And what we call remediation is, like Mr. Berry mentioned, remediation is taking extra time after school in the summer to cover those essentials that we have missed. So remediation will happen afterwards.
Okay.
And some of it is happening now, actually, with a new middle school schedule. We have created a plan where teachers are teaching for 20 minutes and then breaking into smaller groups. And those who are average and above, they would continue the learning, whether on their own or with the help of an adult, while the teacher is reteaching that standard to the students who are average and below. Because they did not pick it up within the first 20 minutes, they would reteach it to them for the 15 minutes, and then they would go.
And my last question would be, are we doing, since you're saying that there are, Dr. Malekos, some students who just kind of dropped out of sight, so to speak. And I don't know how many of those, I'm sure it's not a huge number. I'm hoping it's not a huge number who have just kind of stopped participating. Are truancy laws still in effect here? I mean, are we going to be held accountable for those students who just kind of stopped checking in?
Yeah, they're still in effect. Trustee Petlicoff, I could comment. We just actually discussed this at the meeting last week with Mr. Abe Mashur, who's been part of the conversation of reaching out and with our community and services. So they're still in play, but obviously we try to, and the schools are still implementing it if needed. And Mr. Mashur from Student Services heads that up. But it isn't a huge number, like you said. But we just want to make sure we reach out to any student that may have checked out. I can tell you a positive situation where there was a student that Dr. Swiden, they couldn't find the student from one of the high schools and was not showing up, and so there were calls that were made, and this is just one example. Calls that were made, and the parent in the household was asking for some help, and they had some meetings, and now all of a sudden, guess what? There was some conversation between the parent, the school's social worker, Dr. Swiden, and the student, and now the student's been showing up. It's been a success story. So they're just one example, but that's sometimes that extra reach out to that small percentage. Right. And so with the truancy, we use it very infrequently. We use it when we need to, but it still is in play if necessary as one of the tools that we would use. But at the same token, for students that just totally disregard and checked out, we'd be doing a lot of checks and a lot of calls and a lot of things before we would, get to that point.
Yeah, I just want the community to understand we're just not disregarding kids who just decided, I don't want to bother with it kind of attitude.
Mr. Mashur uses a tracking form for that. He has each building track the students and making sure they know where they are. Whether
okay, great.
Or not, we should know where
yeah, they are. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Thorpe, do you have a question?
Yes, and I apologize if you already mentioned this when you were going through it, I didn't hear. When we're talking about the students that have had failing grades thus far, are we attributing it to that there's more students that are having a problem, or the students that it might have had a problem with one class in the past, maybe now it's two classes that they're struggling in?
I'll defer. I don't know if Dr. Patterson is still there because he looked at that data.
Yes, it's a little bit of both of those situations. I tried to take a look to see how many students might have had more ease this year than they did last year. We do have a number that is in that case as well. And then we also have some students that that hadn't had any before that did have any this year. And in a few of your classes, there wasn't actually a single case. And I think that's just because of the dynamic nature of everything that's going on. You know, students are in such individualized situations that there really wasn't one necessarily root cause to all of it. It's just kind of a dynamic situation and kids are experiencing it differently.
Any other questions?
I'd like to ask Dr. Patterson about the AP tests. I was astonished actually when less than 2 months into the pandemic, the AP tests were actually conducted. I never imagined that students would be tested then. At that point, we were all just getting used to everything that was happening. So I don't know whether you've gotten the results, and that group is kind of a unique group because it's a really high achieving group. And if they can't succeed, then I'm really concerned that online isn't delivering for lots of people. But do you know, are they what are they expecting for the AP tests this spring, Dr. Patterson?
For this spring, we're still kind of waiting to see how schooling is going to look. I mean, last year they did look quite differently, which does make kind of comparing student progress from previous years much different, because versus taking a sit down paper and pencil test with some multiple choice questions, they were much more free response essays. So
presumably that means that the students didn't do as well.
No, we actually had fairly good results this year based on our previous results as well, even though the format was different. And that's something I can provide in a board brief to you in the future. So in terms of this year, I know that they have both of those modes available now. It's just depending to see on if we are in class and able to administer those. And as of right now, the state is required to administer our state test in the spring, and we're working on plans to try to make sure we can logistically do that. But I think we're still hoping that there might be some leeway in that based on where we are.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. It was a great discussion, a lot of information. We all appreciate it. Yes, Dr. Mead, of course. Yeah, those deserve applause. Thank you. Moving forward, next item, please.
The next item is citizen participation. Citizens wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items for action can complete a virtual blue card that will be posted at 4 p.m. on Monday, December 7th, 2020 on the district website. Forms received by the start of citizen participation will be read by the board secretary. The board may not be in a position to respond to non-agenda items. Therefore, speakers should not anticipate an immediate response to their comments or questions for the benefit of all concerned. Please do not mention the names of students or school district employees. Please keep your comments as brief as possible. The board president reserves the right to limit times. And I believe that we have two comments. The first one is from Ms. Samra Luckman, and I will read it now. For years, the administration promised this community that there would be more inclusivity, diversity, and multifariousness that would more realistically reflect the composite of students and parents that the school serves. The needs continue to not be met, with multiple instances of the school struggling to meet the needs of the community. Parents that have had to go to the school and return multiple times because the school did not have an interpreter available, the times that the school has had to call the secretary in another school to translate, the hours spent waiting for the principal to go through a fan out sheet just to get someone down to the office to translate. Considering the majority of Edsel Ford High School are of Middle Eastern descent in accordance with OCR requirements, we are requesting that all departments, school resource office, counseling, administration office have Arabic language speakers so that all students have an equal opportunity to receive services as needed. We are requesting that going forward, the hiring process includes community input at this school rather than from other secretaries, that selections are based on true merit and qualifications that answer the needs of the students rather than baseless statements such as complete skill set. Flatly, we are asking that the administration or HR be more involved in reviewing the hiring that takes place at Edsel Ford. And of course, we know that people are able to submit comments and the comments may or may not be accurate. Next comment is from Mrs. Jane Mazza. Dr. Maleko, President Barry, and board trustees. We have been in school for about 70 days and our teachers have had to make numerous adjustments to both their teaching day and their delivery of instruction. I'm making a request that parents and the community have empathy and kindness for both the teaching staff and students. I've had numerous conversations with our staff where parents have interrupted teachers during their teaching to argue and make statements about the subject area and how the staff member is presenting the material. Parents have also complained about technology issues, which teachers have no control over. If a parent has a comment or observation, they can email the teacher directly. Interrupting a lesson is disrespectful to both the staff member and the students. Some parents and community members have also recorded snippets of a lesson, not the whole lesson for context, and showing a teacher in a negative light. Again, having a one-to-one discussion with either the staff member or building principal is a better way if you have a concern. In this unprecedented time, I'm asking that parents use kindness first. It is very easy to criticize, but take a pause and make sure your child is prepared for schoolwork. Cameras on and all materials needed available. We need to support each other this school year more than any other school year. If we work together, our children will benefit. Those are the only two comments we have. Here, I have heard the same comment as Mrs. Mazza. That's it, President Barry, on the comments.
Thank you, Secretary Lane. Yes, I can speak on behalf of this board, entire board. Yes, we appreciate and we love our teachers. We thank them for stepping up to the plate in this pandemic that we're dealing with. So I would have no problem whatsoever if we value our teachers and all of our employees. It's not just the teachers, but if a parent is gonna disrupt a class or maybe show some disrespect towards the teacher, I have no problem if that teacher reports the parent, and I'm sure Dr. Maleko and his team will find a way to deal with that. That's just, that's not acceptable. I mean, I don't think anybody will disagree with that. That's unacceptable, period, in this story. Okay, with all that being said, next item, please.
Action items. Are there any agenda items on this agenda which board members or the superintendent wish to discuss and vote on separately? If there are, we will exclude these from the motion below.
Anybody? Please continue, Secretary Lane.
Okay, at this time, we'll call for a single motion to approve all of the action items. There are 14. Move that action items numbered 1 through 14 with 2 late arriving HR supplements, which were just added, be approved as recommended in this agenda.
So moved.
Support?
Second.
Dr. Mead, yes, thank you. We have a motion that was offered by Trustee McDonald that was supported by Trustee Dr. Mead. Are there any questions on any of the action items? Trustee Petrikov.
Yeah, it was my understanding, I had a talk with Dr. Maleko about the supplements, the HR supplements.
Yeah, I was about to comment too, Trustee. There was actually one. There's only one now that should be
Right.
officially on there. I was just about to jump in as you did, so thank you.
Yeah, I could tell the look on your face. That one was going to be pulled.
Yeah, so the one that's active of the two is 20-043-2045. And I'm just gonna look at the one that was Joanne had sent it out. I don't know, Joanne, if you're on there, if you have the number. 1 second here.
Joanne did send us a late email just before the
Yeah.
meeting. I did see it. I don't know if anybody else saw it, so thank you, Joanne.
So it's the supplement 42.
42, yes. Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and it was number 14 on supplement 42, the human resources superintendent complex technician.
No, we pulled the whole supplement, Trustee.
Oh, the whole supplement. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. D'Ambrosio,
Yes.
Lane, yes. Ms. McDonald,
Yes.
Dr. Mead,
Yes.
Mr. Thorpe,
Yes.
Ms. Petchlokoff,
Yes.
President Barry.
Yes, thank you. The motion is adopted by unanimous vote. Next item, Madam Secretary.
Do you want the summary of action items read?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay, number 1, approval of warrants. Number 2, approval of contract to Data Image Systems, Inc. Numbers 3 through 5, approval of contract to Presidio Holdings, Inc. Number 6, approval of contract to First Ohio, Inc. Number 7, approval to amend contract with JCI Johnson Controls. Numbers 8 through 11, approval of non-instructional and instructional personnel items for P12. Number 12, approval of financial statements. Number 13, approval of mode of instruction. And number 14, approval of donations.
Dear Lane, I did mention earlier when I was,
Oh, I lost you.
I lost you.
Lost
We can't hear you. You're not
There
muted,
you
but we can't hear you.
next item, please.
Okay. President Barry, I didn't catch what was said in there.
Well,
You want
know
me to
what?
proceed?
My
Okay.
my internet went down for a couple seconds. All I was saying is, I was complimenting you earlier how you pay attention to details, and you proved me right again. Thank you. I appreciate you for keeping us in line. So
you.
we'll go ahead to the next item, please.
Discussion item, we have none. The next item then is Board of Education business, acknowledgement of correspondence.
Anybody? Okay, next item.
Board member committee and organization reports.
Anybody? Okay. Moving along. Next item, please.
Board member superintendent commentary.
Well, I just want to take this opportunity to wish everybody
Jim.
a happy holiday season, a Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year, and looking forward to our January meeting where Trustee Thorpe will be leading us into the next year. So happy holidays to everybody.
Jim.
Trustee McDonald?
Yeah, I just want to say a couple of things. This is normally the time of year that you would see Goodfellows out and about, collecting donations for all the good work that they do around the community, as well as other organizations. Well, due to COVID, a lot of those normal fundraising and the selling papers on the corners and those kind of things have to be pulled back or not done at all. So I just want to remind everybody that the work that's done by the Goodfellows and other groups in our community and around the nation, around the world, are so important. If you're able, and I know everybody's going through some tough times right now, but if you're able, please reach out, send a check to those organizations that really mean a lot to you, that do good work, that you may have in earlier years benefited from. They really need your help. You won't see them around like you normally do, but keep them in mind because the need is so great. There's a lot of people that will benefit. So just a reminder, give if you're able. It's important.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald. Trustee Thorpe?
First, I'd like to wish trustees Mead and Lane all the best in their future endeavors. We'll see you around the community still, I'm sure. And second, as we're moving into the close of the year, I hope everyone gets a chance to relax, possibly take advantage of all this forced free time that we kind of have, to kind of reflect on all the things that we still have that are going forward, are going good for us, and best wishes going forward.
Thank you.
Elaine?
2020 has been the hardest year of my life, without any doubt. And I think a lot of people feel that way with the pandemic. But there are just two facts that Dr. Maleko presented us with in the board briefs that I have to comment on. The first one is that in a day, our lunch staff prepared 100,000 lunches. It's incredible what schools are doing for our community. Schools are our centers of our community. We wouldn't have community life without schools. 100,000 at a time when poverty is rising, inequity is rising. The school staff is doing miraculous things. I mean, it's just a humanitarian work that we prepared 100,000 lunches for hungry kids. And then secondly, I'd like everybody in the community to know that Fordson High School recently did a virtual graduation of a 100-year-old lady who was forced to drop out of school. This used to happen a lot because I know older people that dropped out of school to support their families or to go to war. And this lady dropped out of school to support her family. She always felt, and I've personally known people who were ashamed of dropping out of school, even though circumstances forced them to do this. And it always nagged at her. So her grandchildren, I believe, contacted Fordson High School. Her life shows that she learned the skills to live a productive life, and she was awarded Fordson High School diploma. And I think it looks like it's in a nursing home. That's the type of thing that makes Dearborn Public Schools an incredible place. So.
Trustee Petrikov, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, I didn't say anything during the rollout of your accolades, but I wanted to thank both Dr. Mead and Mary Lane for their service. Mary and I go way back. First time we both met was at Oakman Elementary School when I was PTA president, and she was working for fighting a bond that I was working for pushing a bond. So this was before the 2002 bond finally passed. So we have a long tradition of being on opposite sides of the conversation. But over the years, despite those differences of opinions and viewpoints, we have managed to show how it is that you can work together, even if you have different viewpoints, and that you can come together for the common good. And Mary and I, not just sharing the same name, but sharing the same passion for the school community and the community at large. And I'm sure we'll still be in communication moving forward because we have a friendly alliance now that has surmounted a lot of our different opinions over time. And Dr. Mead, didn't know you when you first got on board, and was prepared to have someone who was ready to sit in the seat at the college, but not at the P12. And you slowly but surely learned your role. And I was so pleased that over time, and you persevered, and you surprised me in your willingness to stay the course and take on the challenges. And I was very happy to have gotten to know you and work with you for these last 6 years. And I'm sure we'll be running into each other somewhere around town as time goes on. So I
you.
appreciate both of you. Thank you.
Dr. Maleko, any final words or? No? Okay, thank you.
No,
Next
I'm
item.
good. Yeah, thank you.
Next item, please.
Okay. Future virtual and in-person meeting dates.
Madam
Pardon?
Secretary, request for information.
Oh, yes, you're right. I'm rushing ahead. Requests
Oh,
for
see, you did catch
information
it, sign.
Who wants to get done?
and/or future agenda items.
Trustee McDonald?
Yeah, just real quickly, and it's been touched on a little bit tonight, but we're coming upon the holidays. Right after that hits January, and then all of us know the school year really starts to move quickly after that. We've talked about learning loss and what we're facing. I'm curious, or I'm interested in knowing what are your thoughts and what are the plans of administration for summer school and how we're going to handle that, because I'm assuming that the need is going to be greater than usual. And we may or may not be meeting in person by that time. Hopefully we will be. But I'm just would like, it's a little premature, but down the road, I'd like to get a grasp on what your thoughts are, what the administration has planned for summer school. Because it will look different this year for sure.
Trustee Thorpe?
Also, we know that the vaccinations are going to begin soon. And I'm curious as to how that may change the way we would plan to start to get staff and students back into the buildings.
Dr. Maleko, this can wait till the January meeting, but I just want to give you the heads up right now regarding our successful STEM middle school. I'd like to get a report on, how the current high schoolers that came from that middle school are doing. Are they being challenged? What kind of program do we have to kind of continue what they learned at the middle school, and possibly for the classes of 2016 through 2020 for those 5 years. I'd like to compare those students, how many of them graduated on time compared to, the Main Street overall, our graduates. Like I said, this is not something we're in a hurry for. We can wait till after the semester is over with. And I could have waited till January, just giving you the heads up on it, that's all. Okay, anybody else? Great, thank you. Well, next item, Madam Secretary.
Future virtual, possibly in-person meeting dates. Monday, December 14th, 2020, HFC meeting, 7:00 p.m. via video conference. Details to be determined. Check online at www.hfcc.edu/board-meeting-schedule. Monday, January 11th, 2021, P12 organizational meeting, 6:45 p.m. at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom, following the guidelines of the state law, and virtually available live for viewing via YouTube, Facebook, and cable channel 19 and 15. Monday, December 7th, 2020, P12 Board of Education meeting, 7:00 p.m. at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom, following the guidelines of state law, and virtually available live for viewing via YouTube, www.youtube.com/DPSCOMMDEPT. Facebook, www.facebook.com/Dearborn Public Schools, and cable channels Comcast Dearborn Channel 19 and WOW Channel 15. Finally, Monday, December.
January.
No, it says December here. I think it's a drop down from the first one that I read. So that looks like that's it. Unless that was supposed to be January. 14th,
No, January 11th is next meet,
The next
January meeting.
Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, HFC meeting at 7 PM. Via.
That one was a dupe of A.
yeah, I've got December 7th and December 14th.
December 7th is today,
Is
and December
today,
8th
right,
is
and
the dupe
December
from the first one.
14th, right. So, yeah, it looks like it's a duplicate. The HFC meeting would be January 18th.
No, it's the
19th.
19th, the holiday.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
That's ML King Day. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's on Tuesday.
Okay, so Monday, January 19th, 2020, HFC meeting, 7:00 PM via video conference. Details to be determined. Check online.
Thank you that very much, and we are adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Happy holidays.